The Feed.
The Spotify video podcasts Netflix situation. The last Marc Maron podcast episode just released. Touching base on the podcasts that are eligible for a Golden Globe. Another reality TV star signs a 7-figure podcast deal. Edison Research acquired by SSRS. Tips for brands to craft a successful podcast ad campaign. And stats, geographic and user agent. Hello, I am Elsie Escobar, Director of Community and Content for Libsyn. And this is episode 304 of The Feed, the official Libsyn podcast, the podcast that takes it beyond how to podcast into keeping you podcasting with podcasting tips and information for the everyday podcaster and taking you inside Libsyn. Now, if you are starting a podcast or simply looking to find a new home for your podcast, use the code THEFEED, all one word, and get a free month free. Now, if you would like to get featured on the show, all you have to do is send in your 30-second promo of your podcast or an episode of your podcast. And how do you do it? You attach it to an email and you send it to thefeed@libsyn.com. If you don't have a promo, but you really do want your voice on the show, or maybe you have a question or you want to add to the conversation that you hear in one of our episodes, send us voice feedback. Send us voice feedback. You can call us at 412-573-1934, or you can use SpeakPipe at speakpipe.com/thefeed. Everything is done via email. It's first come, first served, and subject to basically my capacity. All right, so I want to take a moment to give a gigantic shout out to all of the Libsyn hosted 2025 Signal Award winners this year. Big Lash Energy, The Big Stage, Black is America, Dear Horse World, Future Hindsight, Gender Spiral, Her Magic Mushroom Memoir, Meet the Leader, Mental Health Rewritten, Mom to More, Monstrosity, Public Health on Call, Templeton Ideas, The B Word, and Zipless. And to all of the rest of the Signal Award winners, there were almost 500 of you. Goodness gracious, a big congratulations. And now on to our main conversation with Rob Walsh, VP of Podcaster Relations at Libsyn. Let's go. Hello, Rob.
Good generic time of the day, Elsie. How are you doing?
I'm well. Are you feeling a little folly in your neck of the woods?
It's getting there. It was a little cooler this morning for the first time. We haven't really had a real cool morning yet, so we haven't had a fall morning yet. But next week, we said next week we might get it.
Yeah. No, we are in that. This morning when I was sitting at my day desk, not my recording desk, but my work desk, it had the vibe, like the orangey, just that brownish vibe outside even with the light. So I'm like, things are changing.
Yeah, no, we're still not there. I mean, today, right now it's 61, 62 in the morning. So it's not that cool. And it's going to be 80 degrees today. But Monday, we're going to get down to the low 40s.
Yeah, moving along towards that part. Anyway, well, it seems, Rob, that, as soon as we finished recording last time, there was a bunch of, I guess, Hollywood news. Is that what I would say? And I was noticing, even through the show notes when I was grabbing a bunch of articles, so many articles from Variety. And the Hollywood Reporter.
Variety and Hollywood Reporter. We've made it. We are big time.
Exactly. Like now there's there were some of the old school links that we used to get. We were just getting random PR. There were not even any actual websites. It was just like the PR on Yahoo. Now we're like Hollywood and Variety, picking it all up.
TMZ,
page 6. We have made it. All right, let's start.
Well, I'm going to say big-ish. I want to say big-ish, not big-ish, big, but big-ish news.
Big-ish news, okay.
The past 2 weeks is Spotify getting video podcasts on Netflix. And I'll get into why it's big-ish. And there were a lot of articles on this, some going way over the top, Like The Verge's post with the title, quote, Netflix is making a big bet on video podcasts, unquote. Except Netflix is hardly making a big anything with this. I mean, we're talking about 16 video podcasts, most from The Ringer, from one of the articles, quote, Spotify and Netflix released a list of some of the podcasts covered under the pact. Sports podcasts are the Bill Simmons podcast, the Zach Lowe podcast, the McShay Show, Fairway Rollin', The Mismatch, The Ringer F1 Show, The Ringer Fantasy Football Show, The Ringer NFL Show, and The Ringer NBA Show. Culture and Lifestyle had the Rewatchables, The Big Picture, and The Dave Chang Show. There's also The Recipe Club and Dissect. And then True Crime had Conspiracy Theories and Serial Killers, unquote. This is not a big bet. It does not even include Joe Rogan. These podcasts mentioned will be available early in 2026 in the U.S. only. They did say there'll be more coming in the future, but right now, the question is, how many will ultimately be made available? Will any of those be non-Spotify owned / ad exclusive content? I think this is interesting, but not overly surprising. Remember last month, Amazon made an announcement for some of their exclusive content to be available on Amazon Prime Video. That included New Heights and Armchair Expert, among others, that were part of Wondery. If Netflix wants to actually bet big on podcasts, well, they can email me, rob@libsyn.com. We can work out a deal to bring lots of podcasts to Netflix. Not 16, not 32, not 64 shows. How about something like 16,000 or 32,000 or 64,000 or more shows? Netflix, I'll be checking my inbox. But for now, this is just a small content deal for a handful of select shows owned by Spotify. That's my opinion on this news. Prove me wrong.
So prove me wrong. Well, as you were talking about this, obviously, when I read a lot of the titles of these podcasts, first I saw the news and it immediately goes, oh my gosh, that's amazing. That's so cool. And then I actually read the articles of what the announcement was, and I was very disappointed because it is, like you mentioned, it's a very small, a handful of podcasts there, and most of them, and I'm not saying just because I haven't heard of them, they are not good. I'm just saying these are unknown podcasts to me. So as somebody who does watch Netflix and appreciates the content on Netflix, some of these do not align with the type of consumption, or they're not going to be part of my algorithm within Netflix. Mm-hmm. They're not going to pop up. Maybe the true crime ones might, because I do watch a lot of documentaries on Netflix, so I could see that algorithm is going to bring it up. And in that respect, I think it's going to be great. But I think that according to the way that I see this, I don't believe they're ever going to do what you kind of alluded to, which is we can give you or we can bring you for all these podcasts to add to Netflix, because from what I have seen with a lot of the streaming platforms, what they do a lot of is licensing, and they do a lot of switching. So there's a specific show that premieres on Peacock for, let's say, a year, and then they lose the license for that. And then that title then shows up on Hulu, and then they play it exclusively. So in that respect, I don't feel that this is going to be one of those things where they're just going to have podcasts on Netflix. I think that this is a licensing thing. I think that depending upon what the consumption is on Netflix, they're probably going to get some information to it. I'm sure that whatever the deal that The Ringer made with Netflix has a time wrapped into it, because if they do well within Netflix, they can either negotiate more exclusivity in the future, or they can pitch that to other streaming platforms where their exclusivity moves towards the other side. So I don't think this is going to be hey, now podcasts are on Netflix. I don't think it's going to do that.
And that's, again, why to me it was like all these articles popped in my inbox, and then I was like, wah, 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 when I started digging to the details.
Yeah, that was the unfortunate part, because I did think that, oh, wow, that's really cool. And then there's the other thing also, which is, I believe, I don't know if I have it in here, Rob. There's an element to this deal also where I believe these shows can no longer have the entire podcast episode on YouTube. I think that is part of the deal as well. They can't do that anymore. I'm sure I read it.
Okay.
And I just don't think that I have the actual quote up here for one of these articles.
That might explain why Rogan's not in the deal.
Yeah, correct.
If Rogan's going to take a choice of having his full episode on YouTube and not be on Netflix, or be on Netflix and have a truncated version on YouTube, he's going to probably just stick with the YouTube and full episode.
Yeah, so I think that that's part of the deal here, where I did read that in one of these articles. And I do believe that's why I'm thinking the exclusivity of it all is actually very important to what's happening with this. And it's why there's some other shows that are not on there, because they hold a lot more power in YouTube than anything else. They would lose. Well, I mean, if it's not the entire show, it's just going to force people to have to go somewhere else. And I think that's a thing that I'm not sure that a lot of these folks are willing to do. So you guys, there's going to be lots of articles in the show notes. Please feel free to read them. And I do believe that that's what it said.
To me, whenever these deals are announced, I ask, is this a deal that can get small and mid-sized shows to be part of it? Can we get the feed in the deal? Can I get Today on iOS in the deal? And can I get Space Business 411, which is about to launch, in the deal, right? If I can't get indie podcasters, and I mean, people that are listening to this show, everyone who's listening to this show, your podcast, if I can't get it in the deal, I'm not excited. It doesn't excite me. It's like, oh, that's nice for them, but it's not good for us. We're at a point where everybody knows what podcasts are. This isn't 12, 13, 15 years ago where having a deal like that helps the branding of podcasting. This deal doesn't help the branding of podcasting. It helps Netflix more than it helps podcasting, to be honest.
Yeah, it seems like that's the way that it's leaning in here. And it is a deal just to, and I'm sure that they're just checking out the way in which these shows are going to be consumed. And I do believe that the shows are going to be available. From what I can read, I think in the Verge article also has the information that on Spotify, when the shows are being consumed as video on Spotify, they will have commercials, but on Netflix, they won't. So there is no ads in the Netflix episodes. That's another part of it. So yeah, I mean, it's great, I think, as a test. I hope that Netflix doesn't decide whether things are successful based on only these shows. I don't want that, because I don't feel that content is going to hit for a lot of the audience there. And there's a lot of audience that's going to look at it and go, okay, but they're not going to watch it. You know, I don't know. Have you ever, not to change subjects here, but it's kind of the same. Have you ever considered playing a game on Netflix?
No. Not even remotely. I know it's there, but it never even crossed my mind.
Yeah. And I feel that the UI is going to matter for this. Mm-hmm. The way in which they market within app is going to matter within this. And I would lean actually into not differentiating too much visually between podcasts and any series or limited series or anything like that. I actually would lean on people thinking it's an actual Netflix show, and just do that and let people kind of pop into it in from that respect. I feel if they lead with the word podcasts, it might deter people from consuming versus them just being in their queue or being in their algorithm. That's my take for that, because once they're in, they will be in. But if you call it out as this is something different, people might not do it. We'll see. All right. So now we have, we had a farewell of Marc Maron. No more Marc Maron.
I know. I mean, this is sad for me. And as we talked about earlier in the year, WTF with Marc Maron was going to shut down. And now the gates are locked. With the last WTF coming out this last week, fittingly, it was a follow-up interview with President Obama. It's a good interview, of course. And I do recommend folks listen to it. I'm not going to get into it, but check it out. And if you haven't checked out the first interview he did with President Obama, good time to listen to him back to back to hear how the contrast a little bit. Mark, thanks for all you've done for the podcast space with your show over all these years. And your show will be greatly missed. Mark was a Hall of Fame inductee in the class of 2022. And at the time, my introduction, I talked about, how he was the biggest show early on to prove that you could do a premium content. And his premium content was just his back catalog. He just made it, cut it off at 50 episodes freely available and everything else you had to pay for. And he had 43,000 paid monthly subscribers. And that was back in 2015, 2014 timeframe. So, that just goes to show how powerful he was on that. And he was one of the first early big names to get advertising. And we worked with him to bring him advertising early on. So Mark, he's done a lot to help the space. He was one of those ones early on that advertisers came in asking for. Hey, you have your WTF with Mark Maron. So he really helped the space. I know I'm going to miss it. Brendan, Mark, thank you guys. Brendan is producer. They've done a great job being advocates and acolytes for the podcast space. And Mark is one person that his career, whether it be, Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling or other movies that he's been in since then, all directly come back to the fact that he launched that podcast. His career was over, as he would tell you. And at least he thought it was. And then he launched the podcast and had a huge resurgence, and people got to see him and really understand him, and his talent came out and via the podcast, and that brought him so many opportunities. And now he's going on to another stage. But without a doubt, what he achieved was because of podcasting, and a lot of what podcasting achieved was because of what Mark did too. You will be missed, Mark.
Absolutely. There's no one that is creating content like Mark in podcasting right now. The vibe, the way in which he approached podcasting overall, the way that he got behind the microphone, that subtle, he was representative of the culture of podcasting as it began, which was centered on voice without the video component. It was very audio centric. And it was possibly one of the most authentic and genuine podcasts by a well-known person, right, within Hollywood, even though when he started his podcast, he wasn't necessarily in a good place in his career, which is why he started the show in the first place. But the way in which he handled it was very much fueled by his artistry, by the way that he wanted to communicate with audiences and to reach them in a different way. And also he was very clear about the fact that it was part therapy for him as well. It gave him access to people who wanted to talk to him because he was so grounded and so curious about the conversations that he was having. And from what I gathered, Rob, because maybe later on it was different, he didn't really necessarily make too many decisions that were solely based on money or big deals. He made decisions that obviously supported him and his living and the people that he worked with, but it was never all about fame, and things just evolved in a really nice way for him. So he will be very, very much missed. And I do not believe there's anybody like Mark right now in the podcasting industry that feels so culturally strong within podcasting as it was, or as it's always been.
From the television show Maron to President Obama's interview, some big moments here for the podcast space. And well, you can go back and listen to some of those out there. And I know we've got the full catalog. I've got the full catalog access.
Oh my God.
But hopefully they'll leave it up for a little while and allow everybody maybe unlock everything and put it all out there. They may have already, for all I know. But again, Mark, Brendan, thank you guys for what you did.
Yeah, absolutely. Staying with the Hollywood situation here, we now have 25 podcasts that are eligible to be chosen as nominees to win a Golden Globe. So first, there is this choosing of the top 25. And I'm just going to read this from the Hollywood Reporter article that came out for this. This just says, quotes, the nominees will be chosen from the list of 25 most listened to podcasts that have made a significant impact over the past year, celebrating the creativity and influence of creators worldwide. The organization previously announced. The top 25 list of eligibility is determined by direct data from top podcast platforms, such as Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, among others. As the world of entertainment continues to evolve, we are excited to recognize new forms of storytelling. Helen Hohen, president of the Golden Globes organization, previously said in a statement, podcasts have emerged as a profound medium for sharing narratives and building communities across global borders and generations. By celebrating achievements in both audio and visual podcasts, we aim to honor our heritage categories while making room for new voices and formats to be heard. End quote. Did you see the thing I posted at the bottom?
Oh, where it ranked in the Edison podcast metric?
Yeah, so that you see that these are, because I wanted to show the ranking of these shows and which ones actually ranked versus ones that didn't rank.
And it did have the three that I said, if you don't have these three, it doesn't mean
yes,
doo-doo, which
yes.
are Rogan, Crime Junkie, and The Daily. So kudos for them for at least making sure they had those three. It's an interesting list. It's hard to argue. I think that any one of them shouldn't be there. Maybe it's hard, but there's one that I'm surprised wasn't there. And let's remember, there is no direct data from Apple Podcasts. I mean, you can go in and you kind of see what's ranked here or there, but you don't get numbers. You really don't know when from Apple what's the biggest or by how much. So there's a question mark there about what data did they get from Apple or Spotify, for that matter, for the direct. YouTube, you can see the views, right? You can get that. But the one that's missing, interestingly, to me, was New Heights. A lot of people consider that a top 10 show. And you would think the Golden Globes missed out on a PR opportunity to get the girlfriend, fiance of one of the guests, the hosts of New Heights, Miss Taylor Swift, getting all the Swifties to watch if she was in the audience. Just saying, maybe a PR mistake on their part. You can make this list, slip that one in there. I don't think anyone would have said if New Heights was in there, oh, it doesn't belong. I think if I was running their PR, I would have had that one in there for sure for that reason.
Yeah, it seemed like for most of them, they really did kind of adhere to the top rankers out there. To your point, there's almost no one on this list that I will look at and go, it shouldn't be there. Although there are some, I guess there's only, from when I'm looking at all of the names in there, there's only one that I don't know who it is, but maybe I don't know. What is Mr. Ballin podcast?
It's a big one. Yeah.
But what is it? Is it a guy?
It's paranormal.
Talking? Oh, okay.
But I think it's bigger on the YouTube side than it is on the podcast side.
Yeah, because outside of that, it just seems like and then from now on, folks, the next thing that happens after this list has been released is that there is the campaigning now that needs to happen from all of these podcasts. So this isn't about merit. Let us be clear. This is not a merit-based thing where somebody is going to consume said podcast and go, these are the ones that need to get a Golden Globe. As of now, I'm assuming, and in the way that I have seen Golden Globes campaigns play out, you campaign like you're the president or you want to be the president to be nominated. And you pay a lot of money in order for you to be one of the nominated people. Again, it's not merit-based.
I don't see Rogan getting in it then, because I don't see Rogan doing it. I don't see him doing that.
Yep. That was the very first thing that I thought was Rogan is not going to campaign. He's going to step back and let people do whatever. Or maybe You know what? Who knows? Maybe Rogan wants to have a Golden Globe. Maybe he does. We don't know.
I can tell you my experience with Joe has been, he doesn't care about that kind of stuff. I mean, I went to him with a press release when he hit 1 billion downloads. He'd be the first show with 1 billion. He didn't want to do it. Then when whatever stuff you should know, whatever it was that hit the 1 billion and iHeart said, oh, we're the first to 1 billion. Joe was at 2 billion at that point, or like 1.9. I said, well, Joe, let's do something for 2 next month when you hit 1 billion, 2 billion. And he's like, I don't want to do it. 2.5, I asked him. He said no. 3 billion. He said no. 4 billion. He said no. We had the press releases written. I mean, I literally wrote them up, sent it over, said, heroes, all you got to do is say yes. You didn't have to do any extra work, no extra money. All you had to do is reply back is yes. And every time I replied back, no.
But Rob, there's a difference between a press release of billion and a Golden Globe. I would want a Golden Globe. I would want a Golden Globe. I want that award. Like, I would want it 100%. And he has been in the business in the past. Obviously, he's not doing it right now. I'm not speaking for him. But all I'm saying is that there's a difference to this specific award. And if you want to campaign for it, you campaign for it. And you have to play the game in order for that to happen. Now, the other thing that I did see about the news, these types of news that came up, is there was a lot of folks that were talking about why, especially narrative storytelling type shows that had an impact on podcasting, why they weren't part of this list. And the thing from what I had read and from what I have understood around the Golden Globes in the past is that it's time-based. And I was telling you about this before, that it has to do with a certain period of time of the year, because that's what this is. Every year there's a Golden Globes, and they look at the most impactful media whatevers of said year. First of all, there's that aspect of it. And the second of all is the fact that they were mentioned even from the get-go. They just said, will be chosen from the list of the 25 most listened to podcasts. And that is very, very specific, because that's not talking about the most impactful, the most artistic, the most highly produced, the most meaningful, none of that stuff. It's the most listened to podcasts. I mean, even just the math of it all, meaning if you have a daily show and you're putting out daily podcast episodes versus a narrative series that puts out, let's say, 8, even if you're getting the same amount of downloads per day or downloads per episode, it's not going to ever line up with a daily show because it's math. And they're focusing on the 25 most listened to podcasts. So I just wanted to kind of call that out. If they change the way in which they measure, fine. But I don't believe that there are narrative podcasts out there under the lens of most listened to within a year that would compete with this list, is all I'm saying. So I think that maybe the Golden Globes could consider having another way of measurement that would include some shows that are not solely based on, essentially what they're saying is it's all downloads. It's all download numbers. Anyway, all right. And my God, look at us reporting we're like the entertainment podcasting news now.
Yeah, this next one's about my neighbor.
I know. Your neighbor is here. So Kristen Cavallari signs a 7-figure deal with Dear Media for Let's Be Honest podcast. According to Page 6, it says an 8-figure deal. So who knows if that one's the right. And this is a multi-year deal, Variety exclusively learned. And the new agreement with Dear Media exceeds 7 figures. So maybe
the 8-figure deal is real. It might be, maybe it's a 3-year deal at $4 million a year to get you to 8 figures. No, Kristen, congrats. I know in the past she was living in Franklin, which is right around the corner from where I am, right on the Brentwood-Franklin border. And then she sold her divorce house, as she's called it on the podcast. She used to marry Jay Cutler. And now it's moved into some other big mansion, a really beautiful house. But I remember reading it in the local Brentwood Press stuff. Those little newspaper stuff that you pick up when you're going in and out of the restaurants. But yes, her divorce house is gone. She's in the new house as of February, right around the corner here.
Yeah. So there you go. We have another big old deal there. And we'll see what happens, because in the Page 6 article, now that I just wanted to I'll put that in the show notes as well. There's a little bit of language there that's really interesting. So it says that the first sentence says, Kristin Cavallari has signed a multi-year deal with Dear Media that's reportedly worth over 8 figures to expand her Let's Be Honest podcast. So I'm not sure what that means.
More episodes, probably. Maybe more episodes a week would be my guess.
Maybe. Yeah, it could be that. And she's been doing a lot of live events too. She does a lot of the, that seems to be kind of hip and trendy for podcasting. It's really taken up. Things like Call Her Daddy has been doing a lot of live events, and it seems like she's been doing a lot of sort of sold out shows, live shows with her. So we'll see what happens. All right. Okay. So we have some acquisition news that arrived in my inbox here.
You beat me to it. I was getting ready to post this one. I'm like, let's see if Elsie had it. Oh, Elsie has notes. I don't have to put it in. And I was like, oh, good.
Yeah, it came in here. So this is from Edison Research. This is a letter from Larry Rosen. Dear friends of Edison Research, I'm excited to relay some good news about Edison Research that I believe is good news for all of you as well. We have agreed to be acquired by a great and extremely like-minded research company, SSRS. You can read more about this exciting new chapter in the press release, which we'll link in the show notes, everybody. The most important thing for you to know about this transaction is that nothing will change for Edison clients. The entire Edison team is joining SSRS, including me, and you will have total continuity in your experience with us. Other than billing/invoicing, you should notice no significant changes. That said, joining forces with SSRS will provide all of you with the new capabilities and opportunities to work together to discover the key information you need to grow your business. For anyone unfamiliar, you will quickly see that SSRS shares Edison's commitment to research rigor and great people, the combination that we believe has propelled Edison for its 31-year history. Yes, 31 years. It seems impossible for me to believe that Joe Lenski and I founded the company that long ago. We have seen a lot of changes over the span and somehow navigated through. Joining forces with the SSRS will ensure that the Edison team and our clients can feel confident that they will have the strongest reach partners far into the future. I can't fully state just how appreciative I am of the relationship we have forged and the trust that all of you have put in us over these 3 decades. Please feel free to reach out with any questions. I'll be here. Yay! Well, congrats, Larry.
Yes, congratulations. Hopefully this will not change their yearly share of year and reports. And so I hope they continue to do the same reports they've been doing all these years, which sounds like they are going to.
Mm-hmm.
And support the podcast space and support my slide decks and a lot of other people's slide decks. Right?
I know, right?
So, yeah, so it's always good when they release their reports. So, yeah, congrats.
Yeah, congrats. So that was something that came through. All right. And now, so I wrote a little blog post, Rob.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote a little blog post because we had some podcasters over at this fancy summit that I hadn't ever heard about before.
Well, it's one that we sponsored too. So
yeah,
and just but it's put that out there, make sure people understand.
It's really great. That's right. So we were a premium sponsor of the Chief Audio Officer Summit. It was presented by Oxford Road. And it wasn't necessarily one of those things that it was for podcasters. It was primarily for industry leaders and marketers and really about podcast advertising overall. And there was this amazing session that we helped facilitate that featured Nick Viall from the Viall Files, who is one of our exclusive folks that we have with Lips and Ads, as well as Ashley Flowers and Kim Komando. Ashley Flowers from Crime Junkie and Kim Komando from the Kim Komando Show. And what was really cool about that is that they shared information for brands on how to essentially build the best partnerships with these creators and to have effective ads that really impact whatever the brands are looking to get. And when I watched the video, it was one of those things where I just sat there and I was like, yep. So kudos to Nick and Kim and Ashley because they really, I hope that brands heard them. So I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about this, Rob, because I'm sure that you've had experience from this side of things too. And there were so the article actually is about 5 key insights that these folks kind of talked about. And the first one was about focusing on the solution to connect with your target audience. And that was really one of those things where it's very one-on-one, where I think as a creator, we really love to support you. And we want to have as much reason why we're talking about your product as we possibly can. Have you had experience with getting somebody asking you to promote something and you have no idea what you're supposed to be promoting or what?
Oh, yeah. I mean, sometimes, so I used to do the ad sales with Libsyn way back in the day, and I'd be the one getting the talking points from the advertisers to pass on to the podcasters. And there was many a time where I would get it and go, what the heck are they asking for? And as a podcaster doing an ad read, there were times where I was like, what in the world is this advertiser asking for? And I would then we'd have to set up a call and we'd go over with the advertiser. Okay, what is it you're really trying to pitch? What is the product? Okay. And sometimes we would have calls with the advertisers and the podcasters if they were big enough shows and it was big enough campaign, and really getting a clear understanding of their product and service and the messaging behind their product and service, not just the product and service itself, but the messaging. What's the why do people want this product? What was that message? And getting that conveyed and then being able to have that then read or talked about by the podcaster in 60 to 90 seconds to make sense to their audience. So yeah, the advertisers that do best in the podcast space are clearly ones that understand the podcast space and the connection between the hosts and their listeners and how to get it down into an audible message that does well.
Yeah. Part of it is, the second point here is to make the ad part of your show. And part of it is exactly what you just mentioned, where the value of conversations with especially new brands that are wanting to come in, to understand that being able to collaborate with the podcasters is really a wonderful opportunity to get your brand or your product to be part of because if it's part of the show, folks are more apt to really want to do the thing, want to purchase the stuff, right? And sometimes it isn't a straight up ad, even though, of course, it's going to be called out as an ad, meaning you will disclose this is an ad within as a creator. But what I'm saying is it can be part of the show in a really organic way. And it makes it easier for advertisers to be able to do that, which is the last part of it, which is allowing the podcaster. The third one is authentic storytelling, to make sure that, the way in which a podcaster talks about a product needs to be in alignment with who they are as a podcaster.
When I had Harry's razors, I was talking about using my Harry's razors.
Right.
And same with my Eero routers, which I still use, and Ring doorbell cam, which I no longer have. Just keep moving. But I was, at that time, I was using it all the time and giving examples of when I used it, how I used it. Having the product is part of that. I think that's one of the items here. The product, I think the last one is the product experience, but so I skipped ahead. But yeah, I mean, and then integrating that into the podcast. And I would sometimes come in and out of the ad reads throughout the episode where it was relevant. So sometimes I do the main ad read, but then somewhere else I would work it back into the show where it fit with an article or something I was talking about.
Yeah, I think that's Nick actually really summed it up really, really well, especially with this, is that he was talking about direct endorsement, like personal endorsement. And he was saying that there are times where he literally said this, that I don't want to be disingenuous to my audience. And it's not that he wasn't talking about that he didn't like the product. He was talking about the fact that he's like, that's not something I genuinely would be using right now. And my audience would know that. But I can talk about it in a way that they will actually get a lot of benefit from me talking about this authentically if you allow me to tell the story, because I know who I'm talking to, right? So there's some products that I know I don't use, but I can absolutely be able to tell somebody, you know what, this is going to be a really wonderful thing for you to use because of XYZ, even though I'm not using it right now because it doesn't align with, I don't know, anything that's going on right now. You know, like let's say I was doing Harry's razors and I happen to not have any hair on my body for whatever reason. Like, you know what I mean? I would have to find a way to do it in a way that isn't about me actually taking hair off my body. It's super easy to say because I know I have a lot of people listening to me that would really benefit from something like that. And I think another, in addition to you said about the product experience, the other part was this the other thing about being embracing speed to stay culturally relevant a lot of the time, you know, because podcasters, especially the ones that are tuned into the culture or are really going, not live, but are producing content in a timely basis, being able to create an ad that is relevant at the moment is really important. And so what Nick was actually asking is, it would be amazing if things could go a little faster for approval. So we could just move it forward and we could just do the ad fast, and which I think is important.
You know,
Absolutely.
sometimes the advertisers need to trust the podcasters.
Mm-hmm.
There was some advertisers that wanted to see the script. What are they going to say? What are they going to say exactly? Send us the clip before it goes live. And sometimes that just didn't work with how the podcaster did their production. We're like, if you want this show, you're not going to get a preview. You just need to trust them, let them move on and do their thing. You know, so I used to fight that battle quite often. It was a lot easier for the podcasters to script it up and do it live than record it separate and then bake it in or try to bake it in later on or have to redo it when they did the live.
Yeah, I remember even just doing small things like that too. And it really does sort of halt the overall so that we can start to get results sooner too, right?
A lot of times people don't understand how podcasters work and they don't get the production flow. And
no.
So, yes, some podcasters, sure, they can do the ad as a separate piece and that's fine. But others want to do it when they're doing it live and make it part of the show. And that was back to what was number 2, make it part of the show. And if you're one that like to make it part of the show, like Nick does, having it as a separate file kills that mojo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. But ultimately, guys, if you want to read a little bit more, there's more nuance, a little bit more nuance in that article on our blog post. And there's also the video. So if you guys want to check it out to see what these folks, it was a really, really interesting panel. And I really love the positioning of having some of these folks really speak clearly to anybody who's looking to advertise on podcasts, because a lot of the times there's such focus on you as a creator, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not as much to be able to kind of impart this information and education for brands so that they could really get the most out of podcasting, because that's the point, right? We want them to continue to invest in podcasting.
And all 3 of those people have big audiences.
Yes.
Kim is one of the top 25 syndicated radio shows in America. So beyond just her podcast audience, she has a huge radio audience every week. And then obviously Ashley's got one of the top 3 podcasts out there. Crime Junkie and Vile Files is also one of the biggest podcasts out there. And Nick really, he really embraces podcasting and he's all in. Yep, definitely watch the video, folks.
Yeah, it's very good. Also, just to lay this out too, Rob, this was like a tiny little bit, and I didn't it was one of those tidbits that I'm like, oh, this was good. I learned while I was watching that video that all 3 of them used to be in sales prior to doing what they're doing now. So they all understand the process. And not only are they understand the process, but they're really amazing creators overall. So kudos to them. But yeah, check it out. It's really awesome. Oh my gosh. Rob, did you know I have some new toys?
You caught me with no words. Please tell me more.
So they're podcasting toys. I have the Shure Move Mic 88 Plus and the Shure Move Mic 2 receiver kit. So one of them is a small little tiny microphone. I actually have the MV88 Plus, which video kit, which I use all the time. And it's the one that my husband has actually grabbed. And he now uses it all the time, which is...
So the 88 Plus, that's meant for video?
No, it's not meant for video. The video, I said the video kit because it was initially sold as that, because when you buy the little video kit, it gives you a little tripod and a little thing to put your phone in so that you could walk around with it, that kind of stuff. So that's what it says, the original one. But you can actually use whenever I am on the go, or if I'm now traveling, I use the Move Mic. It is so easy to wrap up and take with me. And so,
do you use which one do you, the Move Mic Lav you're talking about?
No,
right?
I'm not the Lav, the other little tiny one, the 88 Plus.
The 88. Okay, sorry. There's both of them are Move Mics, so I just wanted to make sure
correct.
I know which one you're
both
talking
of them are Move Mics, but before it wasn't a Move Mic because it was just the 88 Plus. Because it was just corded. So you would just stick it into, your iPad, your iPhone, a computer via USB-C. And that's what I traveled with. And it's great. But the Move Mic 88 Plus now is wireless also. So you can use the cord. You could stick it into your computer and or phone or whatever. Or you can also use it as a wireless microphone. So it gives you a little bit more of an option to be able to move away from the device that you are using, which is kind of cool. And the Move Mic 88 Plus that I got has a little receiver, which is the same as the other one. So the Shure Move Mic 2 receiver kit, that one is lavalier microphones, 2 little lav mics, and the receiver kit. It's basically the same. It's the same software. The only thing that I have noticed is that, from what I understand, it doesn't support the receiver kit, the wireless one, the little lavs. If you are using the Shure app on the phone and you are recording directly into the app, you don't need the little receiver kit. You could just use the lav. You could choose that to microphone. But if I'm using the regular camera, or if I have an app that I want to use, I have to use the receiver kit because that's how the phone receives it.
When you go directly to the phone, though, without the receiver kit, you can only do one mic, right? If you want to do 2 mics, you have to use the receiver kit, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. I believe that that's a thing too. Correct. And again, that receiver kit is the one that's going to do that for you. So I'm really excited to be able to use that. I've been wanting to have this primarily for creating content on the go and being able to have the best quality audio as I'm recording. So I've been doing a lot of more like voice recording and things like that. And I'm trying to figure out what the best workflow is for a very lo-fi podcast, if you will. And I wanted to do it in the least restrictive way to me so that I'm not thinking about the audio all the time. So I'm going to really test these out when I start to do that kind of audio stuff. But I'll let you know. But the question for all of you is if there's anything specific that you want to know about either one of these Move Mics, please ask. I'm happy to answer any of those questions and maybe do a little bit of videos, I wanted to do an unboxing and thus I have not taken them out. I don't know how that's going to happen, whether or not that's because I really just wanted to break them out, but I wanted to also do an unboxing, which is really hard. I don't like to leave things in the box. I like to tear them out immediately.
All right. So next item here. Bill O'Reilly put out a video with a top 10 podcast list. The first 5 minutes is Bill talking about podcasting and saying he does not do a podcast. He is not in a sweatshirt doing 2 hours of talking. He has a more basically refined show. It was actually pretty funny to listen to. Not that he meant it to be funny, but it was unintentionally funny. And he calls himself a Luddite at the beginning.
He does.
Nailed it.
He did nail it, and he literally lived into it.
Yes. He then goes about 5 minutes in, he goes into the top 10 podcast, which he never said where he got the list from. Folks, this is a beautiful example of why you should state your sources, mention the link in the show notes, things like that. Journalism 101. The top 10 he listed in order from first to 10th. So biggest down to the bottom 10. Joe Rogan, Crime Junkie, The Daily, Call Her Daddy, this past weekend with Theo Vaughn, Dateline NBC, This American Life, Rotten Mango, Smartless, and New Heights. Again, can't really argue with this list. They're all legit top shows. We talked earlier about how New Heights should have been in the Golden Globe top 25, but the other 9 are in the Golden Globe top 25. If you need a good laugh, this video will hit the mark. Like when Bill laments that Joe never invited him on his show, and that when they reached out to Joe to have Joe on his show, he said Joe gave him, quote, the finger, unquote, as he did not reply. Anyway, it was a funny video, just not an intentionally funny video. Link in the show notes for this, of course, because you should give sources as a podcaster.
My God, that's so funny. It is quite full, but I have a feeling, I know that it wasn't intentionally funny, but I do feel that was there because somebody told him this is going to be entertaining.
Oh, it was.
It's a really good clip. He was being himself.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And also, I think
the guy that made it on his own from Levittown. Yep.
Yeah. Like his team knows what's going to hit. That's a great video. His team told him, just talk about this. And I know they thought this is going to be good.
Gold, Jerry. Gold. I'm telling you, comedy gold, Jerry.
It's like, him talking about also when he was talking about Call Her Daddy, I was laughing because he was like, call her daddy. And talking to Miley Cyrus, I was like, what? What is he saying?
He goes, I haven't watched any of these shows or listened to any of these shows. Right? So he says it. He admits he has no idea what any of these shows.
So when he was with Theo Vaughn, he was like, I really do need to get to know that guy. It's like, okay.
But my favorite was like, he was like lamenting that Joe didn't come on his show. And he's like, we get you some popularity. And Joe's audience is so much bigger than Bill O'Reilly's audience was when Bill was at his peak. Joe still has a bigger audience than O'Reilly had at his peak. And he doesn't get that. That's the irony of this, is he doesn't understand that. And he even was one of the shows he was talking about how much money they're making. And she was like, so many millions. And I find that hard to believe. Or the Smartless was Smartless. Yeah. They each make so much money. Like, tell me, I don't believe that. So again, watch the video. You'll have fun. We'll have a link to it in the show notes.
Love it.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you very much. Hey, and by the way, Bill, you're invited to come on the show. We'll throw that out to you there because we don't want to, we don't want to get on your bad side.
Anyway, all right. Now it's time for your Bill O'Reilly moment. It's time for your stats.
Yes. Find these stats. First up, geographic and user agents. This is country breakdowns for September per downloads, geographic from all sources, and the top 20 are U.S. at 59.1%, Canada at 5.3%, UK at 5.2%, Australia at 3.1%, Brazil at 2.7%. I'll talk more about that later. Germany 2.3%, Sweden 2.0%, India 1.5%, Spain 1.2%, China 0.9%, Netherlands 0.8%. Well, here's everyone else that's below 1%. Japan, France, Mexico, Denmark, Philippines, Poland, Colombia, Ireland, and Norway. That rounds out the top 25 or 20. Now, for September, we had Poland move into the top 20. And between September and August, those with changes greater than 0.2% was the U.S. decreasing from 61.8 to 59.1. Australia moved down from 3.4% to 3.1. Brazil moved up to 2.7 from 0.6. And I'm looking into that. So we're trying to figure out what's going on there, make sure it's legit. And then India moved up to 1.5 from 1.1%. Of course, check your stats and see how you measure up to these numbers for September. And next up is user agent info. For September, across all shows globally hosting on Libsyn, Libsyn Pro for IB Stats, mobile downloads were at 83.22%. Of all downloads going direct to mobile devices. This is down quite a bit from August's 87.89. Computer downloads were up a bit, 16.39%. Home voice attendants plus set-top boxes were at 0.39 in September. And the iOS to Android ratio for September was 3.37 to 1, which is up a smidge from August's 3.33 to 1 ratio. Mobile aggregator apps not from Spotify or from Apple in September were at 10.9%. And the big dogs in aggregator apps is still Apple with the Apple Podcast app, iTunes, and the Apple ecosystem coming in at 45.1% of all downloads for September. August for Spotify, they came in at number 2 at 20.2. Number 3 was Overcast at 2.8%. Fourth was Pocket Cast at 1.8. Fifth was iHeartRadio at 1.1, and Amazon Music also at 1.1, and that was everyone over 1. Between 1% and 0.2% in order were Podbean, CastBox, Podcast Addict, AntennaPod, and Player FM. And then followed by those in order from 0.2 to 0.02%, Downcast, Evox, Pandora, TuneIn Radio, Podimo, Deezer, Podcast Guru, Fountain, SiriusXM, Playdiocast, Castro, Snipped, Beyond Pod, Air Podcatcher, Real Life App, Podverse, and Mixerbox. And then many more that come in less than 0.02 and weren't mentioned yet. And again, those were based on IAB numbers for September. Now, outside of aggregator apps, there were browsers. Firefox and other came in at 13.4%. And other, again, we've mentioned before, it was Chrome for iOS, Safari for iOS. That's a big jump from the 8.1% it was in August. Anytime I see big changes in September, I think one thing, iOS updates. We are digging into this and we'll see what we find. So I didn't have results yet, but every September, I'm always like, okay, is there going to be a big change? We're going to see a change, and we saw a change. So there is something going on. I'm going to assume whenever there's a change like this, it's iOS related, and we'll talk about that more in future episodes. So John and others that track this, we're looking into it, but I always like to give the numbers out, and we'll adjust accordingly and maybe make some changes. Something I'm guessing changed with iOS 26. And then Chrome came in at 1.61. Overall, browsers were inflated, like 15% of the downloads in September. So normally it was 10. So there's something's going on, and I'm going to guess that October is going to be even higher. Whatever that change is, we'll know more and report that at the end of next month, or if not sooner, if we find something earlier, if we find it before the next episode. All right. So that is, where have we been? We had that office hours. You want to talk about that?
We did. It was really, really wonderful. It's all about gear, you guys. There's so many workflows that went into that. We had over 100 people sign up for that, Rob. It was so good.
Nice.
We had a lot of folks there live with us asking tons of questions. So it was really great. I'm going to provide just a link to the actual live in here. So you guys have to look at the show notes for that link. But it was really amazing. I really love that. Yeah.
What else do we have coming up? Anything? We have Afros and Audio.
Oh my gosh! You know what? That's where we have been. Sorry. Yeah. So we've also been at Afros and Audio because this show will go out after Afros and Audio has happened. So. Yay, we had a great time. It was amazing. And Corey was there representing. And if you want to see, I think, maybe some highlights, you can check it out on our Instagram channels and whatnot. So it would be really great for you guys to check that out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it.
After that, we do a Podfest in January in Orlando. NRB, National Religious Broadcaster Show, February here in Nashville. And if you are a faith-based podcaster and are going to the event, or in the Nashville area want to go to the event and would like a pass, come over and spend a few minutes at the booth 1 or 2 days so I can run off to the bathroom, just let me know. Email me, rob@libsyn.com, and just let me know if you're going to be at that show anyway. It's here in Nashville. I'd love to meet up with you. But if you are a podcaster and a faith-based podcaster, we'll let you put little material on our booth for if you come by and reach out. NAB show, April, Las Vegas. Pod show, London in May. And then maybe VidCon in June. So those are the shows that we have coming up here in the next 9 months or so. And then, that's really it there. I want to remind everyone, if you are looking to start a podcast or switch up your podcasting home, you can use the code THEFEED, one word, no spaces, THEFEED, for a free month plus with us. And finally, don't forget to send in your feedback for anything we did or did not mention on this episode. You can record that feedback, email it to us, thefeed@libsyn.com, or you can call us 412-573-1934. And finally, you can also use SpeakPipe at speakpipe.com/thefeed.
Right on. But before we wrap up and say goodbye here, I just want to tell you guys of a couple little things too. First of all, I just want to start with this because it's coming up here. The Latinas in Podcasting virtual event where I'm a keynote speaker. It's free. Please sign up. There's going to be a link in the show notes. It's going to be a phenomenal event. The second thing is that we do have another office hours, and this is for new podcasters. So if you are just new, if you happen to be new and you're listening to this podcast and you're still here, we're doing that on October 28th at 2 p.m. And we also have another Libsyn office hours, which is on November 18th at 2 p.m. And that one is actually going to be focusing on all kinds of really great marketing things, as in basic marketing practices. And it's going to be I have a feeling it's going to be amazing. So please let us know. Also, not let us know. Sign up in the show notes. The links are going to be right there.
Oh, and I got one more thing. If you are looking for a job in podcasting, make sure you go to podcastingjobs.com. As of the middle of October 2025, we had one opening now listed there. And it's for Director of Performance Marketing, remote location. And go there, and podcastingjobs.com to learn more about that opening and potentially others.
Right on. Awesome. Well then, folks, we will chat with you in a couple of weeks.
Ciao.
Bye.